I thought inviting my sister to stay with us was the right thing, until I caught her sneaking out of my husband's home office in the middle of the night. Part 1. The Uninvited Guest. We were never rich, but we were content. My husband Michael and I had built a life from the ground up. Small victories, long nights, shared dreams, and then there was Lena, my younger sister. Flighty, impulsive, always bouncing from couch to couch, job to job, heartbreak to heartbreak. When she called me crying after her latest breakup, I didn't hesitate. "Just come stay here," I told her. "It's your home too." Michael hesitated. I should have seen it then, the way he looked away, the pause in his response. But I ignored it, brushing it off as him being protective of our peace. Lena moved in the next week with 2 suitcases and a broken heart. She was all gratitude and tears, hugging me too tightly, thanking me too much, telling Michael how lucky I was. I didn't mind. I was proud of what we had, proud to share it. At first, it felt like old times. Late night wine on the balcony, Lena venting about toxic exes, me reminding her she deserved better. Michael would retreat to his office when we talked, his excuse being emails, reports, or just tired. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Then came the changes. Lena started wearing my perfume, borrowing my robes, making Michael's coffee before I was even awake. She knew how he liked it, down to the exact number of sugar cubes. It made me feel displaced, invisible. But I told myself not to be insecure, not to be petty. They were just getting along. I should have been glad. The first real crack came one night when I woke up to an empty bed. Michael was gone. The house was quiet, too quiet. I padded down the hallway, expecting to find him watching TV or working late, but what I saw stopped me cold. The door to his office, normally closed, was slightly ajar. Inside, the light was low. I saw Lena, barefoot in a t-shirt that was clearly not hers, stepping out with a whisper of a smile on her lips. She froze when she saw me. My heart didn't break. It detonated. I didn't say a word. I turned around, walked back to our bedroom, and closed the door, because in that moment I realized betrayal doesn't always shout. Sometimes it tiptoes. It waits until you're asleep. It wears your perfume and drinks your coffee. And sometimes it calls you sister. Part 2. The Lies We Live With. I didn't confront them that night. I couldn't. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the air around me tighten like a noose. My mind ran wild, trying to convince me it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe Michael was just comforting her. Maybe she was borrowing his shirt because she spilled something. Maybe. But my gut didn't believe in maybes. It screamed the truth, even when I tried to muffle it with excuses. When Michael climbed into bed an hour later, he kissed my shoulder like nothing had happened. He smelled faintly of my shampoo, the same one Lena started using 2 weeks ago. "Can't sleep?" he whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't trust my voice. He pulled me close. I let him. And in that moment, I hated myself more than I hated him. The next few days were a theater of lies. Lena acted like her usual charming self, humming as she made breakfast, draping herself across the couch in my clothes, complimenting Michael's cooking like she was auditioning for a role I already had. Michael, meanwhile, was careful, too careful, overcompensating with affection, bringing home flowers, doing the dishes without being asked. It felt like guilt disguised as kindness, and it stung worse than indifference. I began watching them like a detective in my own home. The glances, the inside jokes, the way they'd fall silent when I walked into a room. I became someone I didn't recognize, paranoid, obsessive, quietly unraveling while they carried on as if I didn't matter. One night, while Michael was asleep and Lena was out, I checked his phone. I had never done that before, never needed to. But desperate women do desperate things. The texts were there, most of them deleted, but not all. One read, "Don't worry, she doesn't suspect anything." Another, "You wore that blue robe again. It's driving me insane." And then, the photo, a blurry image of Lena in our bathroom mirror, wearing the robe I had packed on our honeymoon. I dropped the phone. My hands were trembling. My breath came in short gasps like I'd been punched in the lungs. I wanted to scream, to cry, to tear the house down brick by brick. But instead, I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of wine. I sat at the table in silence, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the whisper of betrayal echoing through the walls. I didn't know what to do. How do you confront the 2 people you trusted most in the world, when one is your husband and the other your blood? How do you scream when the silence is already deafening? When Lena came home later that night, she found me at the table. She smiled, casually tossing her purse on the counter like she owned the place. "Can't sleep?" she asked. I looked at her. Really looked. And I didn't see my sister anymore. I saw a woman who studied me her whole life, who knew my habits, my insecurities, my rhythms, a woman who knew exactly how to take what she wanted because she knew where I kept everything. "I know," I said, my voice steady. Her smile faded. "Know what?" I didn't blink. "About you, about him, about everything." For a moment, there was silence. Then she gave a small, almost pitying smile. "You always were too trusting," she said softly. "That's your problem." And with that, she walked past me down the hallway, into the guest room, our guest room, and closed the door. Like she had nothing to apologize for, like I was the one who had to leave. But she was wrong about one thing. Trusting wasn't my problem. Loving the wrong people was. Part 3. When the floor falls away. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table until dawn, staring at the place where my life used to be. Every memory of our childhood together, every late-night conversation with Michael, every stupid little moment that once meant something, it all blurred into static. A cruel, mocking montage of everything I thought I knew. By morning, I had made a decision. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't cry in front of them. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I would watch. I would listen. And then I would burn it all to the ground, quietly, completely. Michael acted like nothing had changed. That morning, he brought me coffee in bed, humming softly, wearing the same robe I'd bought him 2 birthdays ago, the same robe she had worn last week. He kissed me on the forehead. "I might be home late tonight. The McKinley project is falling behind." I nodded. "Sure." He smiled, relieved by my compliance. He had no idea I already knew everything, that I had read their messages, that I saw Lena smirk at me behind his back at dinner, the way you smirk at someone you know won't survive the next blow. I started documenting everything, screenshots of texts, a list of dates and times. Lena's sudden overnight business trip that coincided perfectly with Michael's conference in Boston. Even the Uber receipts I found in the trash. I needed proof. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted the truth, printed, signed, sealed, in case I ever doubted myself again. That week I met with a lawyer. Quietly. I told her everything. She nodded slowly, jotting notes, her face impassive until I mentioned Lena's name. "Your sister?" I nodded. She blinked, paused her pen. "You're not just divorcing your husband. You're cutting out a limb." "Exactly," I whispered. When I came home that night, they were there, together. Lena had cooked. Something elaborate. Something I used to make with Michael on special occasions. The smell hit me like a punch in the chest. They were laughing. God, they were laughing. Like I didn't exist. I stood in the doorway for a long time, unnoticed, watching them. It felt like standing outside my own life, as if they had rewritten it and handed me the role of stranger. Lena turned first. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment she hesitated, just long enough to show me she knew I knew. Michael followed her gaze. "Hey, babe," he said cautiously. "You're home early." Babe. As if the word hadn't died in his mouth months ago. I walked over to the dining table, placed a thick manila envelope between their wine glasses and said calmly, "You'll want to read this." They didn't move. "I'll be staying at a hotel until the papers are finalized," I said, my voice steady. "Don't call me, don't follow me, don't speak to me unless it's through a lawyer." Michael stood. "Wait, what is this?" "You know what it is," I said. "And she does too." Lena's expression didn't change. She stayed seated, hands wrapped around her wine glass like it anchored her to the moment. I walked out. No screaming, no slamming doors, no theatrics, just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't protect anymore, the kind that ends things. Part 4, Grief Wears Many Faces. The hotel room was small, just a bed, a desk, and a chair. But it was quiet, clean, mine. The first night alone, I slept for 12 hours straight. No nightmares, no tossing and turning. Just deep, empty sleep. My body had been carrying the weight of suspicion, betrayal, and silence for so long, it collapsed the moment it found safety. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and an unfamiliar stillness in my chest. No buzzing phone. No fake kisses goodbye, no pretending. I stared at the ceiling for a long time. I wasn't okay, not by a long shot. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was gasping for air underwater. Later that day, my phone buzzed. Michael, then Lena, then a long message from my mother. Maybe this isn't as bad as it looks. Maybe you and Michael can work through it. Family is everything. I didn't respond. I didn't have the energy to explain to someone who still believed betrayal was something you whispered about behind lace curtains and not something that ripped open your life like a wildfire. A few hours later, I found myself walking. Just walking. No destination. The air was cold, but it felt good against my face. Raw, real. I ended up in front of a bookstore we used to visit on Sunday mornings. Michael and I would wander the aisles drinking overpriced coffee and pointing out books we'd never buy. He once told me in that exact store, "You're my home." I stood outside the window now, staring at the same corner where we used to sit. He lied. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe I was his home, until someone else's windows started looking warmer. Grief is strange. It doesn't always come in sobs or outbursts. Sometimes it creeps in as you're brushing your teeth. Sometimes it shows up when a stranger's laugh reminds you of your sister's. Yes, my sister. I hadn't said her name out loud in days. Lena. We were so close once that people joked we shared a soul. She knew my first crush. I helped her through her first heartbreak. She held my hand when Dad died. We buried our secrets and whispered promises. No matter what, we'll always choose each other. She chose him instead, and I couldn't stop wondering. Had she loved me at all? Did she feel guilt, regret, or had she already rewritten the story in her head, the version where she's the victim, where I was the cold, ungrateful wife who didn't see Michael anymore? Painful as it was, I didn't want an apology. I didn't want tears or explanations. I wanted distance. I wanted peace. I wanted to no longer wake up and think of both of them before I even opened my eyes. So I started writing. Not a book, not a revenge story, just thoughts. A notebook filled with truths I had been too afraid to say out loud. I lost 2 people I loved, but maybe I found someone else in the wreckage, me. I wrote that at 2 a.m. in the hotel room with the window cracked open. The wind howled outside, but inside I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in weeks, hope. A small, stubborn spark that whispered, "You're still here, and you're not done yet." I didn't know where I was going, but I knew what I was leaving behind. Part 5, Rebuilding from Ruins. It started with little things, fresh flowers on the nightstand, a new pair of walking shoes, coffee from a different shop across town. These weren't grand acts of transformation, just tiny moments of choice. Moments that whispered, "You're still allowed to want things, even now." At first, it felt like betrayal. How could I smile again, even briefly, when the ashes of my old life were still smoldering behind me? But healing doesn't ask for permission. It creeps in when you least expect it. In the stillness between grief and rage, when your body stops bracing for the next blow. I enrolled in a pottery class. That might sound cliché, like something straight out of a healing after heartbreak checklist. But I wasn't trying to be poetic. I just wanted to make something with my hands that didn't come apart. My first bowl collapsed, the second wobbled, but by the 5th, I made something that held its shape, imperfect but solid. And when the instructor smiled and said, "That's yours," I felt something unexpected rise in my chest. Pride. Not because the bowl was beautiful, it wasn't, but because I didn't give up after it cracked the first time. That night, I walked back to the hotel and passed by a couple holding hands. I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. I didn't compare them to us, to what we used to be. Instead, I noticed her earrings and his mismatched socks. Details. Human, flawed, normal. It felt like progress. Michael had sent more messages by then. Some long and teary, others short and pleading. The last one just said, "I miss you. Please don't give up on us." I didn't respond. It's strange how silence used to be what tore us apart. And now it's the only thing keeping me sane. As for Lena, she sent one message too. Just one. "I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'll stay away." I read it once and deleted it. Forgiveness isn't a key I owe anyone. It's a door I'll open when I'm ready, if I ever am. Maybe some wounds don't close. Maybe they become part of the landscape, scars that no longer scream but hum quietly beneath the surface. I found a small apartment on the other side of the city. Just 1 bedroom, a kitchen with cracked tiles, and a balcony that overlooks a noisy street. But it's mine. Every box I unpack is a declaration. I am not who I was before. And that's okay. Some nights I still cry. Not because I want him back, I don't, but because grief is not linear. Healing is not a staircase. Some days you rise, some days you collapse. But even on the days I collapse now, I know I'll stand again. I see her sometimes in my dreams, the woman I used to be. Naive, hopeful, always giving, always bending. She doesn't scare me anymore. I thank her. She carried me this far, but now I carry myself.